Hello, podcast listeners. We're going to take a deep dive into the life and career of Catherine O'Hara, absolutely one of the most talented, funny people on the planet who we just recently lost. Sit back, relax, laugh, and maybe get YouTube ready to watch some clips as we remember Catherine O'Hara. And by the way, if you'd like to help support our podcast, visit jjmeetsworld.com where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some killer swag at our merch shop, or click the link to Apple Podcast and give us a 5-star review.
1, 2, 3, 4. JJ Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. JJ has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled and he's fun and then he twirls as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called JJ Meets World.
It's weird to say that a celebrity death affects you, but this is my thought process. Even though I don't know the person, they still had a massive impact on my life, right? Important moments of my life were spent with them. The reason I am today can be affected by the way that they chose a role, that they did something on screen, on television, in an album. And we've lost some heavy hitters in the not so recent past. Rob Reiner, someone who just absolutely understood comedy in such an interesting way. Everyone talked about how, lovable he was. And we're recording this on a Saturday, and just yesterday the news that Catherine O'Hara, after a brief illness, passed away in her home at age 71. And to be quite honest, I've thought about the world of when Carol Burnett dies, right? There was just this big thing about Mel Brooks and his 99th birthday. And you think of Mel Brooks won't be around forever. I have never thought about a world without Catherine O'Hara. And I'm going to give Catherine O'Hara, we're going to talk, this podcast is going to be dedicated to the memory of Catherine O'Hara, talking about some of the greatest moments. And I actually think one of the things no one's calling out is Catherine O'Hara got us through the beginning of the pandemic, because it was the beginning of the pandemic when Schitt's Creek really found its audience, because everyone was stuck inside and they needed something. And all of a sudden they started watching this show that features maybe one of the best comedic duos since Nichols and May, which is Eugene, Levy, and Catherine O'Hara, who played husband and wife numerous times on television and on the big screen. They were just so amazing together. The chemistry between them was so great. And, of course, Catherine O'Hara, a deep friend of John Candy's. And, in fact, at one point, I'm going to make Tucker pop in. She gave the eulogy at John Candy's funeral. And
it's a lovely one.
It's so good. And she wrote it herself. And it's a testament to who she is. And I know it's John Candy's eulogy, but you get so much of who she is as a person in it. And I'm going to include that in this podcast.
Was it I'm sorry to interrupt you. I don't want to get us off of Catherine O'Hara, but was it Dan Aykroyd who also read it? Candy's? It's that he has that unbelievable, the most eloquently written one.
It's so good. Well,
all time.
I think people forget that Dan Aykroyd is an accomplished writer. He wrote the first script for Ghostbusters that was 300 pages long, and they're like, "Hey, listen, this is garbage. No one could ever make this movie."
But I mean, thinking in terms of Catherine O'Hara's perfect screen partners. Her and John Candy also had that level of, absolute rapport.
She talks about how she had a crush on John, and she's like, but he was so madly in love with his wife that you never wanted, you're just like, of course I would never act on it. But she was she was to our generation a mom, right? So she plays a stepmom in Beetlejuice. Right? She's a stepmom in Beetlejuice? I think she's a stepmom. Or she might be Delia's actually.
I thought she was her actual mom.
Is she actually?
I don't know though. I haven't watched the new one, right?
Right.
Which would probably answer that too. Would she still be in a relationship with her stepmom, you think, in that world?
Yeah. I think it might be her mom. I can't recall because like they change it in the musical. And I'm trying to. I think Delia is her mom.
I think so.
Yeah. I think it is her mom. Anyway, so she's a mom in that. She of course becomes Kevin McAllister's mom in Home Alone.
Yeah.
And we see the plight of a parent. And this is coming from someone who has such deep comedic roots. And even though, like, think about this. She had one of the hardest roles in Home Alone because she played the straight man.
Oh, my God.
Through the whole thing. She had to be unlikable at the beginning for us to, like, associate with, like, yeah, Kevin, you want to be Home Alone. But at the same time, she has to be relatable. And I think so many parents who got drug out to see Home Alone understood what Catherine O'Hara is going through, not only in trying to get home, but also in that situation when she has that one-on-one with Kevin when she drags him up to the attic, right? So no matter what generation you experience Catherine O'Hara, her mom generation is the one that spoke to us the most. And then just as we're to the point of where we are becoming adults and trying to figure out who we are, she becomes a mom again as Moira Rose in Schitt's Creek. And she's now that mom who has adult children, who's still, kind of a failure to launch, which our generation suffered from in a big way. And it was just beautiful. We're gonna go. Okay, we'll go through the filmography. I want to tell one of my favorite Catherine O'Hara stories. My mom was trying really hard to connect with me in a way about movies, right? So my mom was a book reader. She loved to play cards. I hardly remember my mom watching television at all. And maybe like as a kid, we went to 3 movies. I remember going to Hook, Home Alone, and my dad and I saw Grumpy Old Men together, right? Everything else I went to with friends or, I started going to movies on my own when I was young. Everything like that. It was just not my parents' thing. So my dad has recently passed, and my mom is making this attempt to connect with me in some way. And she's telling me the Oscars have just happened. And during the Oscars, Catherine O'Hara is nominated for A Mighty Wind, playing the song with Eugene Levy. Was it, what's the song? It's a Kiss...
At the End of the Rainbow?
At the End of the Rainbow, yes. Yeah. From A Mighty Wind. And in the movie A Mighty Wind, they are this young couple in the 60s who had a folk duo, Mitch and Mickey, and they were a real couple and they were deeply in love. And during their time together, they start to fight and they end up breaking up. And that's when... One of the best pieces of like secondary unit stuff, they create these fake album covers for Eugene Levy, and the first one is like him in a straitjacket, and it's like I'm not doing all right, and then the second one is called Calling It Quits, and he's standing in his own grave with a shovel, and it's his own headstone, and they're talking about when Mitch made his solo albums. So Mickey, her character, goes off, and they don't see each other again. And they do this big reunion concert, reuniting all these folk groups, and Mitch and Mickey are going to reunite. And they did this piece at the end of Kiss at the End of the Rainbow where he would offer her a rose, and then they would kiss on stage. And everyone kind of was wondering, well, will these two even be able to get back together in a room? Will they even be able to, like, work together? And it should be noted that Catherine O'Hara had a hand in her makeup for that because she was supposed to look much older than she actually was. And they did a makeup job on her that was not flattering necessarily. And I thought that was really interesting. And she's remarried. She marries a British guy who likes model trains and sells medical equipment like catheters and stuff like that. So they, in the movie A Mighty Wind, have a kiss at the end, right? And they lose themselves so much in these characters that it's hard to remember, like, that you're watching Eugene Levy. So they do this on the Oscars, and they do the kiss in the Oscars, and it's a moment, right? Like, it's a big moment because everyone has seen this mockumentary, and they just love it. Christopher Guest, what a genius. So my mom, to connect with me, is reading this article in People about it, and she's telling me, she's like, did you know that, like, you know, they were a big group together? And I was like, uh-huh. And she goes, and then, like, they didn't know if they were going to have this kiss because she's married to someone else. And I was like, uh-huh. And I said, you know, Mom, we saw this movie together. You came with me and we saw this movie together. And she's like, I know. And I'm like, these aren't real people. And she's like, right, because it's a documentary, but, like, they really got to bed for the Oscar. I'm like, that is Jim's dad from American Pie, and that is Kevin's mom from Home Alone. And my mom had this moment where she just looked at me and, like, blink, and realizes that she essentially fell so deep into this.
Well,
and the testament to how good they are, right? And I will never forget
adorable.
that. I will never forget that, right? And I think that's the genius. You know, everyone, I think, can pick their favorite Catherine O'Hara role. And I'm going to highlight some of the ones that stick out to me. First and foremost, her work on SCTV. She was a Second City Toronto cast member. And she started very young. She had ultimate comedic chops from a very, very, very young age. And so for a long time, she was the youngest cast member for SCTV. Or for Second City in Toronto. And then they came down and they did a Toronto takeover of the main stage in Chicago. And she also becomes a cast member on SCTV when they decide Second City, we can't let SNL take all of this. We need to launch our own sketch comedy series. And they come up with the fictional idea that this thing is called SCTV, and they only have enough programming for like 1 hour every day. So it's a whole television studio.
Right, because it's got like a meta-narrative kind of to it,
yes.
right? But are we ever... I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, go for it.
Are we ever... Because I haven't watched enough SCTV to actually know this. But is there ever any narrative about behind the scenes?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The owner of the station, Guy Caballero, which is played by Joe Flaherty, is a guy wearing like a white suit with this big mustache and like this big white brimmed hat, and he's in a wheelchair. But he's in a wheelchair for respect, so you see him walking around at other times. But he goes, "If I'm in this wheelchair, you got to respect me." So he's the station owner, and you see that a lot. Edith Prickley, she's the station manager, and she's always watching the budget. Johnny LaRue, a character that John Candy plays, is a director and a producer. And so you see a ton of behind the scenes stuff for SCTV, furthering that narrative of these people are trying to put on this television station and they just aren't doing a very good job.
Got it.
So she ends up with some of my favorite characters. She ends up playing like wives and girlfriends who are not just wives and girlfriends. That's the beauty of what she did as a young comedic actor, is that she had depth to all these people. One of my favorite all-time SCTV sketches is a trailer, like a commercial for a film called Yellow Belly. And it's John Candy, who was both a deserter for the North and the South during the Civil War because he was so cowardly. And it's a single shot, and he's just walking down this kind of like Western area. And he's oh, I'm scared, and like going past everyone. And so he passes a mother and her child, and you hear the little boy go, "Hey, Mom, I think that's Yellow Belly." And he turns and he shoots the kid in the back. The kid falls down dead, and then the mother runs up, and it's Catherine O'Hara, and it's like, "You really are the cowardice. You're so cowardly. You shot my child in the back. How could you? You're really the worst." And then he shoots her. And they're like, "Yellow Belly, this Saturday at 7 p.m. And John Candy never says anything. He just hangs his lower lip out the whole time. It's fantastic. She has another one with this thing called The Millionaire. And in The Millionaire, I mean, she's a lounge singing character that is so good in it. And, it plays with Bobby Bittman all the time, which was a Eugene Levy. You get to see her form lasting relationships with people that she continues to work with for the next 40 years. Right? Mm-hmm. Which is another thing. I firmly believe that Catherine O'Hara is one of those people who pulls in people that she likes, people that she worked with. And I'll get to a good story about that in a second too. So SCTV, all-time one of my favorites. You are not going to be disappointed watching any of it. And when you see the ultimate talent that's in there,
it's insane.
It is so insane.
It's Murderer's Row. It's better than SNL most seasons.
I mean, so many people talk about the fact that, like, Conan O'Brien says, listen, you watched SNL, but you taped SCTV.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that actually leads me to, so Joe Flaherty. So at the SCTV members,
because none of it was in front of a live audience, right?
No,
it was all pre-taped.
all pre-taped, all pre-taped. And what's funny is they taped it all in Edmonton, Canada. And the reason being is the guy who owned the television station there says you can have the whole run of the whole station, but like Edmonton is not a huge. No. It's a big town, but it'd be like going to Cincinnati and being like, hey, you need to produce a television series out of Cincinnati. Not knowing if you could do what you want, but they got the run of that town, anything they ever needed. I mean, it was amazing. And they talk about writing that show. They would spend 3 months writing everything, and then they would spend 2 months filming. And it was just amazing.
And that just gives you that quality boost. But anyways.
So, Martin Scorsese did an SCTV retrospective for Netflix like 6 years ago. And it's just sitting somewhere.
No kidding.
It's just sitting. It includes.
It's definitely going to be coming out now.
Oh, so here's the thing. He's been asked about it, and he's like, "Yeah, unfortunately," and like he makes it seem like for some reason it's being held back. Like maybe someone said something they weren't supposed to say, but it was every cast member from SCTV, including Rick Moranis.
Oh my God!
Minus John Candy, and now Joe Flaherty has died. Catherine O'Hara has died, and so. You know, there are living members of this thing that are still there, but this would be that moment you would want to...
But Netflix is holding it back for some reason?
I don't know who is. I mean, Martin Scorsese did it. Yeah. He got everyone together. And there's one picture of everyone together gathered on this big couch because part of it, this retrospective, is them talking about it. And I'm like, why is this not in theaters? Mm-hmm. And even before Catherine O'Hara's death, it's something worthwhile, right?
Yep.
So I really hope... I hope that this is the silver lining and the little bit of healing as we get to see something that she made that was such an influential part of her life that we can now celebrate as it comes out. We should also be like this. Do you know that I spent about an entire evening about 20 feet away from Catherine O'Hara? So I saw Schitt's Creek live, which was this touring show after the first season came out to try to drum up some excitement for it. Is in Minneapolis, night of a horrible blizzard. And so I was there, and she sat like, I was in like the front row, and she was right there the whole night. And she had this great SCTV callback during it because they did trivia about the show itself. And so it was cast member versus cast member. And she is in a sketch called High Q. And it's a game show for high school students. Where it's hosted by Eugene Levy, and they're all idiots. Like all the contestants are idiots, and they have to ring in with their name. And she plays a character named Margaret Meehan, and she gets like she has this little voice like this. And so they go, what famous rock group did this? And she rings in, and he goes, Margaret Meehan, St. Francis High, and she goes, the Beatles. And he goes, no, I'm sorry, that's incorrect. And she answers again, like she buzzes it again, and every time she goes Amish country, and it's so funny. So when she gets up to do Schitt's Creek Live, she gets up to the microphone and she goes, the Beatles, and it was this amazing callback. It was so great, and like that rewards what 10% of the audience,
right.
Okay, so let's further on in her career. She does a special that is such a deep cut, but it is available on YouTube. I actually, at one point, uploaded it to my YouTube channel, and I got a cease and desist after it got 1,000 views. And so I took it down, but now someone has re-uploaded it. It's called Really Weird Tales. It is a Twilight Zone parody that the SCTV people made for HBO to fulfill a contract of some kind, right, way back in the day. And so Joe Flaherty plays the host, And like it starts off with this like smoky room and a red light, and there's a brain on a pedestal that's like spinning around. It's like from the deepest recesses of your mind, really weird tales. And they're 3 30-minute sections. And the first section is John Candy shows up in this small rural town, and he teaches the town about no money down real estate purchases. And he's got this giant white pompadour that he wears, and he ruins the economy of the town because like building prices now are like way high value because everyone's swapping real estate left, right, and up and down. And then it turns out he's an alien from another planet, and he keeps going from planet to planet trying to use this no money down scheme, and it doesn't work anywhere. It's really, really clever. Then there's the final section of the 3 is Martin Short, and he plays a guy named Shucky Downs, and he's a lounge singer at like a Playboy mansion, and he falls in love with a playmate, but then there's a murder, and it is quintessential Martin Short. But the middle section is All Die Loving is what it's called, and she plays a woman who has been cursed. And it starts off with this convent that she's been forced to live in since she was a little girl. And the Mother Superior finds out that her biological father, Catherine O'Hara's biological father, has died and has left, an inheritance for her. And so she's getting kicked out of the convent. She's not a nun, and the nuns are so mean to her because she has a disorder within her that if she loves anything, it explodes. So as a baby, she loved her mother, and her mother exploded. And so the father sent her to this convent. So everyone's having to be cruel to her. And when they banish her from the convent, she lives in this slum where people are just horrible to her. And she works in the complaint department of this giant department store because everyone comes up and is mean all the time, right? Here's the thing that's going to be amazing. So this comes out right after Cabbage Patch Dolls are huge. So they have a parody of it that plays a big part of it that are called Little Cauliflower Problem Children. And it's the brand of this doll. And they're little dolls, but they look like they've got cauliflower like for their hair around them. And like the dolls will like try and punch at you, and it's like, I'm uncomfortable. And it's just this great throwaway gag. And like I said, when I said that she likes to work with people over and over, so this character named Mervis comes in, and Mervis is this kind of schmucky guy who's always hitting on her. He's like, hey there, Dolores, you're looking really good today. I went and ate a burrito, and boy, did it mess with my guts. I'd like to take you out sometime. And she's like, I hate you, Mervis. And so she finds out more about her disease in this amazing scene at like a college professor's office, and it's called like, you've got psychic blowing people up disorder. It's like an acronym that they use. And he goes, and the only way to break the curse is to love something you truly hate. And so she decides she's going to try this with this Mervis guy that just makes her skin crawl. This Mervis guy, if you see him, you're going to be like, why do I recognize the way this guy's walking? It's because 40 years later, he plays Bob, the garage owner, the mechanic in Schitt's Creek.
Oh.
So she obviously worked with him, and he must have been someone who like was a writer or something that they worked with. And so he gets brought back, right? And that's one of my opinions. The same thing with Home Alone. I have no doubt that it's because of Catherine O'Hara that John Candy does that small cameo role in Home Alone.
Right.
She's so good in it. She's so
Do you
fantastic.
think John Hughes said, hey, do you think you could help me get a favor from Candy?
I think absolutely. Because he did it for scale. He did it for, it was only $400, and he filmed for like 23 straight hours.
Well, and he improvised so much of what he was doing.
Yes.
Right?
And you can see her start to crack in some of those scenes when he's explaining about leaving his kid at the funeral parlor. And like you can see her really start to lose it when he was okay. After a couple weeks, he started talking again. And you can see her even when when they cut to the rider van and you can hear the polka music coming from inside and he's playing the clarinet and he takes it and he's like, come on, try it. And she's like, no, thank you. And on the third time, she's like, no. And she pushes it away like with a stern hand. They just had great chemistry. And she has great chemistry with so many other people.
She would absolutely elevate whoever was in the scene with her. Like, if you were a bad actor and then she was in a scene with you, for that scene, you're actually a good actor because she's going to bring you up. And I don't want to get out of order here. But,
no, keep going.
But I've been watching interviews with her, and I found one where she's talking about Waiting for Guffman.
Oh, yeah.
And so, in my opinion, both Home Alone and Waiting for Guffman are perfect movies.
Oh,
just in my own taste.
Okay,
those are both perfect movies.
I think Best in Show deserves to be in there as a perfect movie as well.
Sure. Like I haven't watched Best in Show yet. I've just seen clips from it.
Wait, hold on.
I've seen clips from it.
You've just seen clips? You've never seen the whole movie?
Never seen the whole movie.
Oh, brother.
Yeah, that's on my...
Oh, I'm jealous. I wish I were you now.
But I mean, yeah, she... What was I trying to say? Oh, well, so
she elevates everybody.
She elevates everyone. So I was thinking about I'm trying to decide who my favorite tag team partner is with Catherine O'Hara. Because obviously we've got John Candy, we've got Eugene Levy, we've also got Fred Willard.
Yep.
And Fred Willard and her in Guffman. And
as a married couple, the Chinese food scene.
And he is doing 90% of the talking, and she is silently being fucking hilarious the entire goddamn time.
I think the thing to note from that is there are like 3 scenes where people have played drunks in movies that do it convincingly.
Yep.
Lucille Ball in Yours, Mine, and Ours, one of the greatest drunk scenes of all time. Catherine O'Hara in that scene where and it's
Without
not like
doubt.
they keep showing her like downing drinks and drinks and drinks. She's just so good playing that drunk.
And that was what it was. She was talking about that scene from Guffman in an interview. And she said, you can see at one point where I tuck my head down into Fred. That was me trying to not laugh. And so I went back and watched it. But it plays off as though it's the husband and wife needing to talk to each other. I think it's after she goes, because the whole Jew thing is just...
Well, and my favorite is where she goes, shh, 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 girl talk. And like she leans over the table but is still talking at the same volume. Girl talk, shh, girl talk.
And then... that, I guess I could see why they deleted it, but that deleted scene where he's doing his sort of like baseball role play.
Yep.
And she doesn't say a single thing, but everything about what she's doing.
At the end of that movie, her improvised speech about how Fred Willard has taught her to act by not looking, like I don't look at him, and then when I look away, I open my eyes, and then when I look back, I close, and just... They are the quintessential people who are in shows constantly, but are just horrible. Every single community theater has seen these people, and like, you know, they're my stalwarts. I call them the lunts, the lunts of Missouri.
As I was watching all my old scenes, I didn't realize that Bob Odenkirk was in Guffman.
Oh yeah,
I did not remember that. I didn't realize that was him.
So is David Cross.
David Cross, that's right. This was pre Mr. Show or post?
I think this is probably in the era of Mr. Show.
In the era of Mr. Show. But
Waiting for Guffman, by the way, if you've never seen it, is a mockumentary about a small town having their bicentennial, and then the local theater guy puts on a play, a musical about the founding of the town, and it is perfect.
And in the sort of high school theater community here in Fargo-Moorhead, West Fargo area, all of us who had any kind of connection to Trollwood worshipped that movie because Corky Sinclair was so similar to John Marks.
Yep. Who my understanding is never saw the movie. Yeah. People told him about it all the time, but he never saw the movie.
Where is he even right now?
We'll talk about it after.
Okay, sounds good. But like when he's like, you know, I was buying clothes for my wife. I buy all of her clothes.
I was digging through a bin of blouses, right? Like, he's like, and that's how he met the wife of Eugene Levy and convinced her to like tell him like, oh. Yeah, actually, one of my favorites is when they go to his house after he quits, and she screams at the door, "Corky, we love you."
Dybbuk Schmibbuk. I said more ham. Anyways, but
it's
okay,
so good.
But Waiting for Guffman is another movie that when I look at it, I'm transported back to a time and place.
Yes.
Right?
It's a VHS darling.
It's a VHS darling. It was a early DVD darling, too. When I got the news yesterday about Catherine O'Hara, I went and looked at a photo of her from Home Alone, and I started bawling, and I cried for about 30 minutes because suddenly I'm looking at Movie Mom.
Yep.
Right? And I'm transported back to a time and a place, and I'm 5 years old again.
Home Alone, I think, is the thing that propels her into being a household name. Right? Because that movie was just so huge. It was so massive. But she has Beetlejuice before that. She has other small recurring roles. She's on TV all the time. And so I think that she was famous, but this brought a new level and certainly a new generation into who she was, right? Beetlejuice, smash, huge success. She has an interesting run in the early 90s because she gets this. She also does the voice of Sally in Nightmare Before Christmas, as well as Lock or Shock, one of the three little trick-or-treaters. She's one of those, along with Pee Wee Herman. Yeah, and I can't remember who does the other voice.
I think it's Danny Elfman.
Is it Danny Elfman who does the other voice?
I think he's the third voice.
Which is just a wild combination of three people to do those things. So she does that. She does best. So the mockumentaries that she does with Christopher Guest are Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show, A Mighty Wind. They also do a movie called For Your Consideration, which is her lead role that is not a mockumentary, it's just not what it should be. Okay. It's all of the same people that he works with all the time, and it's about the making of a really crappy movie at a studio that they just don't care about, probably low budget, and someone says that there's Oscar buzz about it. And so it's about how this movie changes. It's originally called Home for Purim, which is a Jewish holiday, and then they change it to Home for Thanksgiving because they feel like that'll be more appealing to a wider audience, and then they change all these things. But it's like that movie just doesn't get there, and I don't know why they don't do it as a mockumentary. Like, it would have been great to do that as a mockumentary. But again, Christopher Guest probably wants to try some different stuff, right? Like, and God love him. Go for it, right? A Mighty Wind, fantastic. That Mitch and Mickey stuff is out of this world. I think she's at her best in those mockumentaries in Best in Show. Mm-hmm. She and Eugene Levy play husband and wife, and they've got a Norwich Terrier named Winky, and they're not like a super wealthy couple. They're from Florida, and so they're going to this dog show, and there's this reoccurring bit about how wherever they go, they run into someone who's slept with Catherine O'Hara like before she met Eugene Levy, and it's this run, and like and Eugene Levy like is embarrassed every time, but she's like, don't worry, it was before we met. All this type of stuff. She has her character's amazing, and you see the chemistry between them so quickly, so viscerally, that no wonder Schitt's Creek becomes as great as it is. Like, honestly, you watch them together and you're like, you can see Christopher Guest being like, I've got to write something for these two where they play, like long lovers.
Eugene Levy probably has the A spot for her.
I think so.
For her on-screen duo partners. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's all tight, right? Like, they're all doing world-class stuff with Catherine O'Hara. But
in the 90s, she ends up with this, like, a slew of things that, like, aren't necessarily, like, big, right? So she does Home Alone 2 in 92. Nightmare Before Christmas is 93, but of course, you don't see her face. And her voice is in there. She does a Tales from the Crypt episode that's really good about a woman who's caught speeding in a small town, and she's like a cutthroat lawyer and has to go to this court case. If you've never seen that episode of Tales from the Crypt, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. She's fantastic in it. She's so good. Then she does a movie called Tall Tale, and I'm surprised we've never talked about this, because if you didn't watch Tall Tale as a kid, I would be shocked.
Wait.
It's about a kid whose parents' farm is being sold, and he gets knocked unconscious, and when he wakes up, Pecos Bill...
She's in that?
She plays Calamity Jane, Pecos Bill's girlfriend.
No kidding.
And she comes into this saloon, like, guns firing, and goes, my little rose petal. And she goes, don't give me that. It is so good, and she's on screen for maybe 5 minutes.
I was really into that movie, but so
I knew you'd be into that movie.
I was huge into that movie, but I didn't remember that. Oh my goodness!
Oh, it's a good one. So she does Waiting for Guffman in '96. Small bit parts all the way through the rest of the 90s. The 2000s hit. She starts 2000 off strong with Best in Show, and then one of the greatest comedies that does not get the acclaim that it should. She plays Cindy Allman-Beegler in Orange County. She plays the mother of Colin Hanks, who's a character who's just trying to get accepted to go to Stanford. Listen to this cast, right? So you get Colin Hanks, you get Catherine O'Hara, Jack Black, John Lithgow, Kevin Kline, Harold Ramis, Ben Stiller. This movie is full of cameos. This movie is perfect. And it takes place like in this span of like 48 hours about this kid who just wants to go to college. And she plays a woman whose husband, John Lithgow, has left her years ago for a younger woman. So she's married this man who barely speaks and is in a wheelchair named Bob. And she's like, will you just help me? Again, playing one of the best drunks you're ever going to see. And at one point, he's like, listen, these people who have influence at Stanford are coming to our house. You need to sober up. And she's like, fine. But your father. And she comes down the stage and she goes, hello, I'm Cindy Allman-Beegler. And then she burps a little bit. She goes, oh, excuse me. And when she sits down and then she starts monologuing about how her husband left her and she's been trying to do the best she can as a mom. She is genius. Every minute she is on screen in Orange County is perfect. I am telling you, it is perfection. This movie came out the summer I graduated from high school, and so it had a special place for me. At that point, that summer, the theater in Moorhead, Minnesota, the Safari Theater, had movies for 50 cents, and it was the discount theater. I kid you not. I saw Orange County. I must have spent $5.
No kidding.
10 times. And every time, she was so funny. She was fantastic.
That's one of those I never saw, but I can see the movie poster.
Oh yeah, right.
And because the DVDs I remember being on the shelf.
I think you would appreciate this too because it's a young Jack Black role where he is just stellar start to finish. Then you get A Mighty Wind in 2003, and she's so good. And here's the thing: we haven't even talked about this. She's an amazing singer. She sings in Nightmare Before Christmas. She sings in Waiting for Guffman. Best in Show, she doesn't. No, she does sing in Best in Show, and you got to wait until the very end to hear it. It's so good.
That walk was awesome.
What was that?
That walk was awesome.
It's so good.
That you sent me.
I can't believe it's not in any of the clips anywhere. And when you see the whole thing together, it's so good. But then A Mighty Wind comes out, and that album, To a Mighty Wind, is a love song to folk music. And all of the songs they sing the song about Johnny coming home from war that is beautiful and haunting. They sing, like, she and Eugene Levy produce songs that are real, actual songs that are gorgeous and a love letter to the folk movement. So good that I've heard other folk bands cover those songs now, right? Like, it's so good.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So then she has what I would consider one of the worst Christmas movies of all time, but Phil Lund, who's been on our podcast, loves it. It's called Surviving Christmas. It's a Ben Affleck film where she and James Gandolfini play husband and wife, and they live in the house that Ben Affleck had grown up in, and he is now like a millionaire, and he wants to have this like Norman Rockwell Christmas, and so he rents the family, essentially. It's a movie that just doesn't quite get there, in my opinion. She's in A Series of Unfortunate Events, the Lemony Snicket movie, and that, of course, is a big deal when it first comes out. She starts doing some voice work, and so she's in Chicken Little, Over the Hedge, Monster House, Brother Bear. She's in a movie called Penelope, where Christina Ricci has a pig nose, which is interesting. Plays her mom. Then that For Your Consideration. So she continues to work. Another just banger. You watch Curb Your Enthusiasm, right?
Oh, yes.
Do you remember when she plays Bob Einstein's sister, Bam Bam Funkhauser? And she goes, Larry stole from the fridge. Larry stole from the fridge. What are you doing to me? Her single episode is Bam Bam Funkhauser, who...
Because doesn't she do an impression of Larry David?
She does.
And it's unbelievable.
It's so good.
It is unbelievable.
And her character is like, she was emotionally disturbed, and she's just been released from like a state institution, and the ask from Marty Funkhauser is like, would you just come and sit with my sister for a little bit? And so they're sitting with her, like trying to be like, this. And then,
that's how you know how brilliant she is, because you're like, let's come up with a bit where we just have to be sitting there with her.
Right, exactly.
So that she can be funny on screen.
And then Jeff ends up sleeping with her. And like, she ends up in the Where the Wild Things Are movie, which is another one that. Do you remember the hype that came up before that movie? And
I dug that movie. It's a Spike Jonze movie,
right? And it's not that anyone was disappointed, but it just hasn't had the longevity.
It didn't hit the kind of like. Yeah, it didn't embed itself in the culture the way so many things have, but it is a phenomenal movie.
There is a stop motion like claymation series called Glenn Martin DDS about a dentist, and she plays the wife in it. That is some of the best voice work. So she really gets into voice work because she also does the Frankenweenie stop motion film from Tim Burton. She collaborates with Tim Burton a few more times. And, like I said, not everything is amazing, but she does end up working until we hit 2015 and Schitt's Creek becomes the thing. And Schitt's Creek reintroduces her to the world, and people who have known her, but like they knew her as Kevin's mom, but they never knew her as Catherine O'Hara. I was watching an interview yesterday after the news of her passing where she goes, someone's like, well, how did you figure out how Moira sounds? And she goes, Moira switches accents like 7 times. And that's the problem, is when people do an impression of her, they stick to one accent. And that's why it never sounds right, is because she's always changing it. And, she said, I would see the script or the outline pieces and I would feel it out. Like, there's one where she's having to take care, like they're babysitting, and Johnny is just bad with the baby, and you'd think she'd be horrible. And she's like, John, isn't that bebe due for an exchange by now? And she meant like, you need to change the baby's diaper. And of course, Tucker, I think your favorite scene is fold in the cheese.
Oh,
right.
Yeah, and I've said this on the podcast even before. But one of the reasons why Catherine O'Hara is on my Mount Rushmore of all-time actors is because she can do these very subtle comedic moves that are very hard to get right. Mm-hmm. And she does them perfectly. And it's the fold in the cheese. She's talking with, what's his name? David is the character's name, right?
David.
Played by Dan Levy, right? And she keeps trying to say fold in the cheese to him to make that the direction, because she clearly doesn't understand what it means. Right. She doesn't want to
She's reading a recipe of her own, by the way.
That her mother passed on to her.
Yep.
And she says she claims she's made it before, and now she's passing it off to him. And so she said fold in the cheese a number of times, and then she does this little thing where I can't recreate it because I can't do it, but she tries to present the same information as though it is new. And she just kind of does, here's what you do. You just fold it in, right? And that murders me every single time. Her acting is her performing is just perfect.
We don't get comedic actors like Catherine O'Hara anymore.
No.
Right?
Well, even before her, I think she was singular.
She falls to me in the same category of Lucille Ball, Carol
Sure.
Burnett,
Okay,
Gilda
I get it.
Radner.
You're right. Yeah.
She falls into this category, and I'm not just saying that because they're women, because in all honesty, I truly believe that she stands toe-to-toe with anybody.
Yeah, she's on my Mount Rushmore of all-time actors.
Right. And Catherine O'Hara is just so smart. And this is why I think it's so devastating, because I did not picture a world where there would not be Catherine O'Hara adding to a piece. She was just The Wild Robot, which was released in 2024, I believe. She does a piece of voice work in there, and you'd never know it was Catherine O'Hara, but it's perfectly done. And afterwards you read, like, that was Catherine O'Hara? Of course it was, because she acted with heart. Mm-hmm. So much stuff. Even in movies that I didn't care for, like Argyle, she's still fantastic in them. Fantastic.
She's one of those actors that even if the part's not written for her or she's not the type, she'll rise to the occasion and make it work.
Yes.
Right? Like she's someone who I bet the writers would come up with lines for Moira where they were like, this doesn't even on paper sound like a Moira line, but she'll make it become one. Mm-hmm. She'll find a way to make it become one.
One of my favorite Moira moments is at the end of, or it's the beginning, the first episode of season 2. David has run away, and they find him on that Amish farm, and they're having a conversation across this field, and she's worried because David took her black crocodile bag, which has been handed down from generation to generation if you ever needed to leave your husband because it had value to it. And she goes, David, we were so worried about you. Where were you? Do you have your bags? And she goes, David, come home. We'll help you with your bag. And like, she doesn't want to come out and say, I'm only here because like, I really want to get that bag back. But at the same time, like, even though Moira is self-absorbed and vapid, she is still a loving mother. Like, she loves her children. She just loves them in a way that we don't quite understand.
Another side note just about something that's amazing about Schitt's Creek is that Eugene Levy is effectively the straight man. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, he's funny. He has great funny moments. But you can tell he understands, no, I'm sort of a dive board platform. Right. Yep. I'm here helping make sure that the rest of these characters have this one piece of infrastructure that's kind of moving them forward and is sort of the least crazy of the four of them.
Yes.
That's the kind of thing that both he and performers like O'Hara are and were, is they understand what does this role call for, not how does this role lionize me, right? Mm-hmm. Like Will Smith, when he approaches a role, it's like, how can I be as much Will Smith as I want to be and have this raise me in the eyes of other people? Whereas they're looking at it going, what does this require? What is the right approach to this?
I have no doubt that if you, like, she was repped by CAA, right? I know that much about her, which is what, Creative Artists Agency. But I have no doubt that if you had a movie and Catherine O'Hara was attached to it and you approached anyone in Hollywood and said, hey, this, she's playing a secondary character but has, a good role, I don't think anybody would say, I'm not going to jump at that because I want to work with her, right? And I feel the same way as about Amy Poehler. Mm-hmm. Amy Poehler, I think, sometimes gets that acclaim. It's like touching something that Jim Carrey's a part of in 1995, right? Like, he's proven that, hey, I can do all this stuff, and now where can we go from here? What an amazing, immense talent. And if you haven't listened to some stuff, it's amazing. And I think we'll round this off with her speaking at John Candy's funeral. And you can understand what a giving, beautiful, amazing person that she is from the way she speaks about somebody and the way that it isn't, here's a bunch of Hollywood stories. She's able to break, and maybe this is why she's such a great actor. She's able to break down who John Candy is to a cellular level in such a way that makes you understand who he is better. And so somebody who can do that, someone who can bring that to the table, is someone you want to collaborate with. It's someone you want to spend time with. And I don't know if the world fully understands what it's lost.
Who am I to be standing up here talking about John Candy? I'll tell you who I am. I'm one of the millions of people whose lives were touched and enriched by the life that was John Candy. I know you all have a story. You asked him for his autograph, and he stopped to ask you about you. You auditioned for Second City, and John watched you, smiling, laughing. And though you didn't get the job, you did get to walk away thinking, what do they know? John Candy thinks I'm funny. You walked behind John to communion. You carried his bags up to his hotel room, and he said, hey, that's too heavy, let me get that for you. And then he tipped you. Or was that a day's pay? Your child was friends with John's daughter, Jennifer, or his son, Christopher, and you got a little stick of hearing how much more fun it was at the Candy House. You worked one of the 1,000 Air Canada flights John took between Toronto and LA, and you never had time fly by so fast. You worked at the butcher shop, the fish shop, the market, the LCBO, where John ordered up his feast for friends, and you took your time, not only to do it just right for him, but to keep John there for a moment longer. You caught a John Candy scene on TV one night right when you needed to laugh more than anything in the world. You delayed him at customs and immigration, just for fun. You worked on a John Candy show, and not only did he give you your very own Argo jacket on the last day, but he thanked you for your good work every day before that. He closed your bar, and it was packed because, of course, no one would leave until John Candy had gone home. Party monster? Maybe. Or maybe he knew you could just use the business. Or maybe you're here at St. Basil's tonight because you were friends with John at school, and when he became famous, you got all shy about calling him, little knowing that you were in his thoughts, but he was too shy to call you. Or you're here because you're John's loving friend, his in-law, his aunt, his uncle, his brother, his mother. Sorry. Dear Mrs. Candy, whatever you did to deserve this child, God bless you and thank you. I have my own story. In 1974, I auditioned for John Candy, director of the Second City Touring Company, and he hired me. Yeah, John Candy thought, oh, it was funny. When I joined him in the main cast, he drove us all the way to Chicago to play their Second City stage. And I had a crush on him, of course, but he was deeply in love with Rose. So I got to be his friend, and I closed the Chicago bars with him, just to be with him. We did SCTV together, when we all tried to come up with opening credits that would somehow tell the audience exactly what we were trying with the show to say about TV. It was John who said, why don't we just throw a bunch of TVs off a building? In any show, John knew what he was doing. He was bright and quick and graceful and full of ideas, funny ideas. But he always had room for your idea, too. If you threw John something, anything, he would grab it, run with it, play with it, sparkle with it, and toss it back, and you'd get to sparkle, too. This open generosity was a way of life for John. And in business, John knew what he was doing. John's sense of self-worth from day one was rock solid. Long before the reviews, the ratings, the fans, John just knew he had something valuable. And we all agreed. Almost every SCTV contract was a favored nations agreement, meaning we all got pretty much the same deal. Well, at the end of each paragraph about salary or residuals or per diem, it would say favored nations, and then in brackets it would say, with the exception of John Candy. And he shared his wealth. Money was for John, forgive me, Father, the root of much good. The last time I got to work with John was on Home Alone. He could give them one day, so they took him for 17 hours of improvising. John gave himself so completely to every role, big or small, not just because we all came to expect it from him, but because he loved doing it. He really had fun. And when he'd laugh, he'd throw his head back and put his hand to his heart and let out whelps punctuated by these exhilarated silences. You know the laugh. No, not the Johnny LaRue laugh. No, not the William B. William laugh. The real John Candy laugh. The last time I saw John was at a tribute we took part in honoring Gilda Radner. God bless her soul, too. I remember he wasn't feeling well that day, but I also remember he never let it show on stage. He was funny and generous, and he reminded us once again why we love him. My final claim to John Candy's fame is he was born on his birthday, and he died on March 4th, my birthday. Since that day, I've been trying to remember. I spent nearly every working hour, hundreds of evenings and weekends with John for nearly 10 years. So where are the details of those days? I realize when I think of John, it's not in terms of details. I think of John in terms of the big picture. That is why we so mourn our loss, but we treasure it as well. John's life had meaning. John had principles. He lived by them. He worked by them. He set a good example in so many ways. He was a protector. He cared. If he felt you'd been wronged in any way, he'd risk everything to make it right, to make you know you were worth something too. In a business that indulges the weaker souls, where the insecure lend others' words far too much meaning, John was a humble, sensitive man, full of faith, who seemed forever grateful for his gifts and his time on this earth. His work was filled with lightness. His movies are a safe haven for those of us who get overwhelmed by the sadness and troubles of this world, for those of us who aren't sure which movies are really okay to take our children to, or even just those of us who don't see a lot of movies and don't want to waste our time and money when we do. My mother told me last week that in the last 10 or 12 years she's seen 4 films: Uncle Buck, Summer Rental, Home Alone, and Only the Lonely. And my mom didn't realize until after he died that they had all been John Candy movies. We each have our own John Candy story. We try to put it into words how happy he made us, how much his time here meant to us, and why we'll miss him so. We try to express John. And it's okay, we don't have to. Privately, we have our very own memories, and together we have so much else. As if he knew he'd be leaving us soon, John left us a library of fun to remember him by, on tape, film, and Laserdisc. And we share this life with the whole world. The British Isles, Europe, the islands, they'll all share with Canadians John's love of life. And yes, Americans who like to claim John as their own and who can blame them. They too will need their comforting. Let me just brag for a moment on John's behalf. Last week, after the funeral mass, where Danny Aykroyd recited the lyrics to John's favorite song, "Oh Canada," we all got in our cars and joined the procession to the cemetery, where dear John, at least the body we know him by, will rest. The cemetery was quite a distance from the church, so we took the freeway. Of course, we're in LA. We got on the 405, and I know from talking to everyone afterwards that they all had the same experience. We got on the 405 and we thought, what is the deal? Why? It's empty. The 405, the busiest freeway in the world, was empty. So we're totally confused, and we turn around and we look back to see 6 lanes of traffic stopped. California highway patrolmen were in their way with their lights flashing. They stopped the 405 for John Candy. And when we crossed the 10, the busiest freeway intersection in the world, the 10 was stopped too. We cheered, we cried. Every entrance ramp along the 405 was stopped by a CHIPS officer. At one of the entrance ramps, a driver from one of the cars way back was in the cop's face, obviously trying to find out what the deal was, why we stopped. The man listened to the cop's explanation. He listened, he lost his anger, his face lit up, and he walked back to his car smiling. For John Candy. I must mention, if you don't mind, that Joe Flaherty and I are the only SCTV castmates of John's who are fortunate enough not to be working tonight and able to be here. But John knew all about missing important things for work, and he didn't turn out so bad. So please know that their thoughts and their words are in mine spoken tonight. God bless dear John, our patron saint of laughter. God bless and keep his soul. I will miss him. But I hope and pray to leave this world too someday, and to have a place near God, as near as any other soul, with the exception of John Candy.
That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help us continue to produce new episodes each week, visit jjmeetsworld.com, where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some swag at the merch shop, or follow our link to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the sites the cool kids are using these days. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by visiting moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, check out linebenders.com, where you can find direct contact info for JJ or booking information. I also thought she was incredibly attractive from the get-go.